Hey guys, me again, as promised, setting the bar for nervous people in front of a microphone. It's down here. So welcome everyone to the loadout. So here's how it's gonna work. Y'all are gonna listen to me ramble for a bit, and then we've got some excellent speakers coming up to talk about their personal experiences. Between some of those speakers, we have a couple folks from Sims here for Sims. Very polite. We have Dr. Garrick Baskerville. Sorry if I butchered your name. I think I did that. Okay. He's going to talk about his experience in the medical field and what he did about it for the creative community. And our live stream appears in my face and up, so I'm just going to imagine there's 1,000 more people out here looking at me. Yay. So first off, a couple thank yous. To Austin, Texas musicians for their continued support. We've officially partnered with them. Yay. To Sims for their crucial and epic effort on our community, our safety, and our well-being. To Billy, calling you out, who's our live stream guru, and Deb Dangerfield, our remote activism manager. They're both making sure people who can't leave their home have access to this event. Yay. And finally, to Hotel Vegas. There is a total sense of serendipity for me that Hotel Vegas is not only the first venue for me to be involved in with an event since the shutdown, but also the backdrop for an evening talking about coping with mental health. In 2011, I took a gig for South by Southwest with some friends that were opening a new venue on the east side. For about a week, I carted ice and beer from a reefer truck right there to the inside of Hotel Vegas's bar right there. From doors to loadout, every night it remained butts to nuts, packed. As a community, we've watched it maintain that popularity, supporting every badass, weirdo, psych rock to glam to performance punk act this city can come up with. Really happy to see them open right now. So, nearly 6 years ago, fresh out of grad school and in a very rocky marriage, I moved in to one of those rooms upstairs. It took a little luck and a shit ton of support from our community to be able to transition back home to Austin from Atlanta. With 2 jobs and a little room I got to have all to myself. They say divorce is one of the biggest mental stressors a person can experience, and it was, up until recently, one of the most raw, vulnerable, and self-doubty periods of my life. Made up that word, self-doubty. You can use it. When I talk to folks about living here, I'm usually met with wide eyes and a solid, wow. It may not be what anyone associates with healing, but for me, it was integral to rediscovering who I was without my husband, without the plans I'd made for our future, and what it literally feels like to wake up to a noise band sound checking under your bed. The 2 other giant stressors in a person's life are widely accepted as death and moving. A year ago, this month, my father died. This happened the day the U-Haul pod showed up to my house in South Austin for me to pack everything into and leave my job at Mohawk and move to Los Angeles. Put together that timing, it's really great timing. With everything we've all been through these last 6 months, and with the disclaimer that I do not have a degree in psychology, I think it's safe to say that global pandemic also makes the list of big stressors. Despite my change of address this year, I never fully left Mohawk. I came back to work levitation, New Year's free week, and flew home to Austin March 14th, 2020, to help rebuild and reschedule bands after South by Southwest officially canceled. It was in that week that everything about me, and I mean everything, changed. I had 6 festival contracts that canceled, the bar I was managing in LA closed, and I was there when the gate to Mohawk was padlocked indefinitely. And that's a word I have a feeling we're probably gonna hear a lot tonight, indefinitely. So in the middle of a global pandemic, after losing every job I have, I moved, again, back home to Austin. A short while later, the 4.5-year relationship I was in ended, and I found myself, whoever I even was anymore, devastatingly alone. I swear this gets better. What I don't think anyone realizes about us, our community, is that our identities are intrinsically tied to our careers. The doubt and helplessness of not knowing when or even if we get to go back to who we were on stage or off is both an existential and identity crisis. Throughout my divorce, I still knew what I did for a living. Throughout my move to LA, I still knew I had a home and security at Mohawk. And with the death of a parent, you don't lose your career. Eating from a hot dish of what the fuck, and days upon days of wandering from room to room, doubting every decision I've made since I was 16. And I'm not just suffering from personal doubt. I have a faith crisis as well. Remember for a moment a show you worked, played, or attended that really got you off. Be in that space for a minute and look around. We stand below a pulpit, singing the chorus of the gospel as presented by an idol. We feel the bass, words, or melody deep within our bodies in a way that nothing else compares to. Our venues are basically our churches. Our shows are to some, and to some of us, spiritual experiences. Our congregations are our bar staff, security, floor staff, and production. And this, at least for me, is how I cope, or coped. It's no different than any other church out there, except these venues pay taxes. They state things like all are welcome on their doorways, and they're in danger of being shut down forever. So I guess, in a way, what I'm saying is praise Thin Lizzy, and amen, David Bowie. We've experienced every doubt imaginable, and we still don't have answers. I pulled myself out of my crises by yelling at City Hall. I felt so helpless that I was willing to go scream at a building in the hopes that someone would hear me. What I found out was really fucking important. It's not just me. I know we all see these ads for like cable services and shit that say alone together, and we're with you. But when it comes down to our community, we genuinely can look to each other. And when it comes to our venues and our stages, I can look at Hotel Vegas and see a piece of me right up there. I can look at Mohawk, even though they're closed, and see who I want to be again. We've temporarily lost our churches, but that doesn't mean we're drifting out at sea. I've found so many people reaching out to me, to each other, in ways that are both meaningful and trivial, and both are important right now. I need both a vulnerable conversation and a shit-talking, what is this political hellscape, damn Raised by Wolves is a really good show bullshitting at least twice a week. And it's out there. I get to create again for a purpose, and that purpose is this, literally this. Instead of yelling at a building, I'm yelling at y'all. I'm yelling with y'all. Listen to what these folks have to say tonight. Think about what you identify with. Who else needs to hear the words that we're saying? Maybe it's just you, maybe it's your friends, maybe it's your family. Know that I'm here. The Amplified Sound Coalition is here. Sims is here, but ultimately know that there are no right answers right now. There are definitely some wrong answers, but there is no right way to process the doubt, the anxiety, and the bullshit. You all have value. You are important. You're skilled workers, and we built this city's brand one stage at a time. We'll get recognized for that. Hell, we've already made a little bit of progress. So if you're looking for something to do, if you're looking for a way to pivot right now, reach out. It can be to me, it can be to Sims, it can be to anyone. Strengthening our community is the only power we have right now, but it is a power stronger than anything the city, state, or even country can throw at us. We own that power, and we control the volume. So our first speaker tonight has been introduced to me as a social worker, yoga instructor, musician extraordinaire. She's gonna come up here. You're gonna have to wait a couple minutes for me to do the 2020 thing and disinfect this microphone. But I would like to welcome to our little corner, Ginny Friedman. This is where we get slapstick with it.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Jeanette, that was awesome. And I'm Jeannie, nice to meet y'all. I would like to talk a little bit about kind of my story in brief because I wanted to get more positive after that. And thank you. So when I lived in Orlando, Florida, that was back, I moved here in 2012. And I'm so glad I did. This place is awesome. But I lived in Florida, and I was in a hardcore band called Kite Flying Society, and it was really fun. And we got to a point where I could say like I was proud of that. Like we were playing with musicians that I really liked, like Melt Banana, The Locust, like old screamo style music. So I felt like, I was 18 years old at 22 when I was in that band and lived in Florida. And I worked at a record store. It was really fun. I felt like I belonged, And then it hit me when I was 22 that I had kind of like a mental breakdown. And I didn't know what was happening at the time. I was depressed. I wasn't sleeping right. I wasn't acting like myself. And so basically, it was very embarrassing for me, like, when I look back. But I'm also not ashamed, and that's what I wanted to tell you all tonight is, I moved back to Orlando. My community, like, kind of shunned me. People I was touring with, like, friends of mine, like, just walked by like I never existed, that kind of thing, making fun of me in public. So that's lame, that's not cool, but it gets better, so don't worry. So I've done a lot of healing and a lot of work on myself to get to a place where I can tell y'all that it's totally normal and okay to have depression, to have anxiety, to have any mental illness, that it doesn't matter. They're not labels. Sims is awesome because they let you know that, we're human beings. We have ups and downs. Right now, we're in a really hard situation, all collectively together. So what you're feeling is natural, I got out of that really hard spot, and I was able to do a lot of my healing process from going to school for social work and helping other people. And I think right now it's really important to recognize that you can and will feel better. If you're feeling down, like, there's no shame. Contact Sims. You're a musician. They're amazing. Like, they've helped me more than any other mental health, institution. You're getting de-institutionalized. Luckily, Austin's way more progressive than Florida. Okay, only in Florida. No, I'm just kidding. It's not all bad. In Orlando, it's actually like kind of like a mini Austin, except people really feel like, I'm cool and, more cliquish, Here it's more inviting, welcoming. Social, mental illness is not accepted there. So, maybe, I don't know. Like, maybe it's everywhere, I have no idea. But I feel like we've come a long way because my psychiatrist in Florida told me this when I was taking pretty much a stimulant and a downer. You take stimulants during the day and you take downers at night. That does horrible things for your nervous system. I mean, taxes it. So I was on that for 6 years. My psychiatrist in Florida told me, if you don't stay on these medications forever, then you're going to be locked up forever in a mental institute. I'm 22. I lost, everything changed overnight. And you're telling me this to make me feel, afraid, So I ended up just not taking them 2 weeks later. I just stopped. I'm like, and I haven't been on them since. It's been 12 years, and I haven't been on them since. So, thank you. So I want you to know, medications are good. They have a place if they fit right for your body. But if a doctor is not prescribing something that works well for you, then switch medications, advocate for yourself. Be an advocate. If they don't switch doctors. Yes. I'm telling you, so Another thing I wanted to mention, now that you have a background of kind of where I'm coming from, I had to pull myself out of a really hard spot. And anyhow, what really helped, especially during feeling, I mean, I have anxiety, I have depression, you know, it's natural, it's normal, it's, you know, we're human. I might have it a little bit more than, you know, especially in this situation now, it's very heightened, but, you know, getting a balance right now is really important for everybody, like balance, you know, I have vices, who doesn't, right? But, you know, I used to drink a lot to just kind of self-medicate, and I have maybe 1 or 2 drinks per week now, tops, because I have like a minor liver disease now. Don't feel bad, don't worry. It's fine, you know, but basically, I gotta keep myself in check. So what I've learned, having to like really get more sober, is yoga. Like, I love yoga, mind, body, and I'm not preaching to do yoga because it's not for everyone, you know, but if you can find some kind of mind, body exercise, whether it's, you know, it can be anything, walking in nature, focusing on the 5 senses, you know, the wind and the colors of the trees, and just breathing deeply, or whatever it is to get that mind-body connection is really important right now. Like medications and therapy, I cannot stress enough like how important it is to reach out to someone. If you're feeling down, that's normal, you know, that's natural. You're never a burden, like, at all. So I definitely had a lot of trouble asking for help for a long time, but Sims is great. You know, they have really good providers. Like, it's really easy to get set up with Sims too, compared to where I won't go off on a tangent about my social work experience, because it's actually like I learned a lot working for Integral Care, but the intake process is 1.5 hours long. That's a long time. Sims, like, it was so easy. I filled out 2 forms. They called me. I had a 30-minute appointment. Done. And it felt so natural. So yeah, it's very, and by the way, my counselor didn't tell me what the other counselor told me for it. They said, oh wow, I said, I haven't been on medications for 12 years, you know, I take passion flower tincture or something, or stretch or breathe, you know, and she goes, keep doing that. It seems like you really like to hike, you really like to do yoga. I think that sounds a lot better than the other, you know what I'm saying? So we need to destigmatize mental health. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just as natural as going to a doctor, a regular physical doctor, you know? So the more we have these types of conversations, and I hope my timing, you know, the better it is, you know, reaching out to your friends. If you feel comfortable right now, social distancing, taking a walk with your friend, if you notice that they're struggling. If you see people bullying someone who's like has a mental health issue, it makes it worse. It can send them into crisis. So if you see someone doing that, like, just call them out. Really. Yeah. I just don't want other people to have that experience. And I think Austin, actually, I don't really hear about that here, to be honest. Florida's weird, you know. I'm sorry, if you're from Florida, like, I love you. But, I love it. You know, we're all healing together with that. Yeah, so also I was just gonna say, Sims is great. Look them up. If you have any questions about them, like, I'm happy to answer. There's a lot I want to say about social work related stuff right now, but yeah. I also want to just like keep my time good. So thank you so much, everyone, and thanks for hearing me. Thanks, Dan and Jeanette and Jason, everyone, Patsy from Sims, and Amplified Sound, and Austin Music, y'all. Yeah, I really appreciate y'all.
I can keep my mask on while I introduce the next speaker and then do this little doodad for him. Up next we have Mike Hanley, who I don't even know how to introduce you, dude. Like, I worked with this guy as a production manager on festivals that no one had any right putting together, and somehow we cobbled together with like zip ties and duct tape, as you do. Yeah, Mike Hanley's been a real inspiration to me. He's one of the people that I can reach out to during these last 6 months, and he'll just talk my ear off about everything that's great about everything, even though everything seems terrible. So Mike, this sanitized microphone is for you.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you, Jeanette, and thank you everybody else that's here tonight. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an introduction and then just talk a little bit more about how I'm personally dealing with this pandemic and ways that it might also resonate with you. So as she mentioned, I have a long history of working events and festivals. My first ACL was 2004. That's how old I am. And I actually work in the food court. And as you guys know, in a normal year, we would be out at Zilker right now. This would have been weekend one. So, you know, there's a lot that's changed this year. And, you know, what had happened with me, my personal journey, to make a super Cliff Notes version of it, is a lot of what I've realized that's hindered me in my life leading up to today is dealing with shame, dealing with accountability, and dealing with the fact that when you're more egocentric and worried about yourself, it's a lot harder for you to not only be a good human, but also be true to what you are and what your values are. And that's where a lot of coping comes in. That's where a lot of negative issues come in. And so for me, I was able to realize this and put in some work. And, you know, similar to what other people have said and other people will say, went to therapy, talked things through, did a lot of reading, and I was able to find really what mattered to me, which was finding a purpose and aligning that purpose with your values. And everybody's values are going to be different, you know, and there's a few books, and I brought a couple here tonight. You can always see me at the end if you want to take a closer look at them, but a lot of them all say the same thing. They all say, let's try to do away with shame. Let's try to have more empathy, have more compassion. And how do we do that? Well, we're starting by doing it tonight. We're starting by being vulnerable. Just getting up here and speaking is a vulnerable thing. You know, anybody that tells you they're not nervous before they public speak is lying to you. I had mac and cheese right before I came up here tonight. That was yeah, and it's wonderful. The shells and cheese are great, by the way. Please have them. But that's kind of the point is. Vulnerability is key, though. Think of all the things that you were on the fence about doing, and then you just went and did the damn thing. And you may have failed, but at least you tried. But when you didn't fail and when you succeeded, it was amazing. So that's one of the biggest things we can do, yeah. And that's what we're trying to do tonight. We're trying to show you a few things. You have to remember that as humans, we're hardwired for connection. That's why this pandemic has been so difficult. We're not supposed to be isolated. It's hard for us to be isolated. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to say, hey, y'all aren't alone. Like we're experiencing this with you. And there's no one right or wrong way to experience what we're doing because we've never been through it before. And so for me, my personal journey has been when everything went south at South by back in March. Y'all remember March of 2020, it seems like 30 years ago. Yes, that was a great 2 weeks. And it was tough, and it was dark. It was like, why even get out of bed? Because you literally had every text, every email was, oh, it's postponed, it's canceled, or we don't know what's happening, you know. So we're hardwired for connection, and we're hardwired for an ending. It's in our DNA. It's what protected us, our ancestors, from getting eaten by bears. We had to know what was going on and how to fix things. Well, that's two of the issues that we have here. We're trying to be alone, and we don't have an ending to the story. If I were to tell you that the pandemic was magically going to disappear and we're all going to be able to party at Zilker and have full bar service and no social distance anything on, March 15, 2020, everyone would be like, okay, that's a long time from now, but I can deal with that because I have an end date. Well, I can't do that. We don't have an end date. So what can we do? We can read more. We can listen to our friends. We can, become, in my opinion, a better version of ourselves. There's always ways to improve and ways to do that. And so some of the things that have resonated with me is understanding what shame is. And a lot of it is just talking it out. So anybody that comes up here and really shares some deep and personal things, I applaud you. I'm very proud of you because that's not easy to do, but it's also removing shame from the equation. Because all shame is what's in your head, and you don't even want to talk about it because you're so worried about being judged. Well, the irony is, everybody's worried about their own shit. It's the spotlight effect. We all think it's all about us. So for me personally, moving away from that egocentric form of thinking of what are other people going to think about me, am I being judged, all of these things, I'm sure they're all true, but what I've tried to do is focus more on others. And I've always kind of had that in me, but I've had these mental blocks. And for me, what it was, oh, well, I've got another gig. I can't worry about that now. I can't worry about reading that book or doing that thing. I got to go fly to do something else or load in another festival, whatever it is. I don't have that problem anymore. So I've been able to take that time, and I will say for me personally, I've been able to, find more of a purpose volunteering, giving back. There's been a lot of really good ways to do that safely during the pandemic, whether it's with the food bank or with Habitat for Humanity, that sort of thing. And so that's worked for me, but also just listening to friends and taking those moments of holding space for your friends and not saying, oh, well, you should go do this or go for a run or go do that. Your friends don't want to hear that. They just want to be listened to. There is no, if you're literally sitting in your bed for the last 6 months, that's great. That's your choice, But if you're out there killing it and doing all these amazing things too, that's awesome. But we're not here to compare each other. No one's doing this better than anybody else. We're all in it together, and we're all just getting by the best way we know how. Like Jeanette so gratefully said, we're all winging it. And so that's really what I think is a silver lining with 2020 is we've been able to have that time to say, you know what, let's do some personal reflection. Let's see how we can be better people. Maybe make that focus towards others as best we can. And then once we can actually go out and live a quote unquote normal life again, I'm hoping for 2023, then we're gonna be better than ever. And it's gonna be, and to me, that's what really fills me with joy is having that purpose that aligns with my values, which are giving back to the community, which are, serving others, teaching, that sort of thing. That just resonates with me. That may not resonate with you. There may be other ways that you would feel fulfilled. I encourage you to find those ways. And I do have a list of books that I can, and like I said, I brought a few tonight that I can share with you just to show you. It may work, it may not. Again, that's just my way of doing things. So that's really all I wanted to share. And I just hope you guys are all doing well. And just remember, we are all in this together. And we always will be, and this is just the beginning of what Jeanette's doing. She's a beautiful human, a wonderful person, and we're lucky to have her around. And she's surrounded herself with just as many beautiful, brilliant people that you're going to hear from tonight, and the things that they're doing are going to blow your mind. So sit in, buckle up, it's going to be a great night. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
I swear I didn't start this coalition as an ego boost, but it's working. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. He is a local musician, also has a really incredible story pertaining to his life and the last few years of his life. Randall Scott White.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, Patsy and Sims. My name is Randall, and I've lived in Austin about 3 years now. And musicians, man, if we can't take this time to be making our super album, who are we, right? So dig deep, find that pain, and put out your double album. This is the time. My story, I'm not one to harp on pain, but mental illness is a real deal. My band started in Portland. We're called Railer. We got discovered by Guns N' Roses manager John Reese, and he flew us out to LA. And we played for all the big record labels at SIR Studios. They had The Cure's lawyer and everybody was there, and we were supposed to make it, and they told us, we're not going to sign you because we don't like your drummer. And I was like, well, I like my drummer. No. And anyway, he's drumming in Portugal, the Man now. They have this little smash worldwide hit called Feel It Still. Fuck you, Hollywood, sometimes. So, I'm going to talk about perseverance, because he gets old, a lot. And you have to keep pressing on with that. And so I met a gal in Portland, and we hit it off and had this relationship that started. It lasted 13 years, and my story is more about undiagnosed mental illness, when you don't know what's wrong in your brain and something emerges. She had bipolar disorder, and when we first met, she told me my family's crazy, and you're like, well, whose isn't? But you don't really know the scientific definition behind it. And so when it manifests over time, it can really tear your family apart. Over the years, I lost my brother to suicide. I lost my best friend to suicide, who was my guitarist in my band. And then, I got married, and then I lost her to suicide. You take punch to the gut like that, and you start wondering what the fuck you did to God. And pardon I am French, so get away with a couple of those bombs now and then. But it's about perseverance, never giving up. Railer got booked to play South by Southwest this year. I was so excited to be able to introduce the music to my new Austin family here. And you just take cosmic kicks to the groin again and again and again, and your bills are due again. And you lost another gig. Okay, fine, you took it. I'll just leave with this. I'm making a film about the bipolar experience. I recorded it over the years to show back. This is what you did last night. You turned into the Incredible Hulk, and you don't remember it, Bill Bixby, but that's why your clothes are all torn up, right? So you tried to document it, and we're turning it into a film. It's called Bipolar. There's a Kickstarter going, and I very much appreciate Sims and being a partner in that, and that's why I'm here tonight. Is Austin doesn't have to stop in our art. If you're not doing music, then I'm making candles. It's a really fun hobby. You make crystals, you make a mold, Etsy, baby, whatever it takes. Don't let your art stop and persevere. So thank you, Patsy. Thank you, Sims. Thank you, everybody. And keep it in there, man. We're going to get back. We all want it, so we're going to make it happen together.
I go home and start making candles. All right, our next speaker needs no introduction. She is the head of Sims. She is the patron saint of mental wellness for musicians and event industry workers in Austin and beyond, possibly the world. The incomparable Patsy Dylan.
Hey everyone, like she said, I'm Patsy Dylan. I'm the Executive Director of the Sims Foundation. I'll start with a very brief history of my walk through pain. I grew up in a household with an alcoholic father who didn't stop drinking until I was in my early 30s. So literally my lifespan was with him drinking. And while I was never physically harmed by him, he was abusive to my brother. So that was added in my family history. So the moment I left El Paso and came to UT to go to school, my dorm happened to be directly across the parking lot from the health center. So mom and dad drove away, and I ran there and said I need a therapist. And the only reason I knew that was because I had an uncle who was a psychiatrist who I would go visit in the summer in Florida, Jeannie, but he was okay. He was in the good part. And he basically told me, direct quote, "Your family's fucked up, you need to go to therapy." And I did, and that led me on my trajectory to where I am today. So my first career was in human resources management, and when my last job, my 16th layoff that I had to conduct, I worked for an organization that was amazing, and they gave me a year's severance, and it just happened to be during the summer of 9/11. And so I knew it was going to take some time to kind of figure out, what do I want to do? I know I don't want to do HR anymore, have a psych degree, where do I go? And I watched, like everyone else, staring at the television as the whole 9/11 awfulness was unfolding. And when we all heard about that plane that was going down in Pennsylvania, the thought in my head, because they were announcing, of course, everybody on the plane knows, they all know they're gonna die, we're just waiting for it to happen. The first thought I had was, God, I really sincerely hope that every single person on that plane was at a place where they at least felt good about where they were, knowing that that was the end. And then I really thought, well, I'm not there. So I took a long time to really explore what I wanted to go to school for, and I became a social worker. I've had a much better experience than Jeannie has had in her social work career. So I'm really excited about being a social worker, and after several years of doing other kinds of things, I was asked by a board member to apply to be the the clinical director at the time of the Sims Foundation. And so you've heard the name a lot. For those of you who don't know, we're the only nonprofit of its kind in the entire nation. We provide affordable behavioral health care. So every level of care that anyone needs for mental health, even just emotional struggles, and substance use, we provide to musicians, music industry professionals, and their families. So that's how I'm kind of brought into this. This is my passion. I love live music. I love Austin for its live music. All of us are going through this pandemic in pain, that love this industry, and we're watching it and we don't know what's gonna happen. So you've heard a common theme tonight, and it has to do with reaching out and being connected and caring about people. So we'll get phone calls sometimes from people saying, hey, I read this Facebook post by so-and-so, and do you know him? Because it doesn't sound good. He sounds like he's in pain, or he sounds like he's gonna harm himself. And my first thought is, that's great, I'm glad you called us, but I don't know him. So have you reached out to him? Have you said, hey, dude, I'm worried about you? And not just a response on his wall, but did you maybe private message him, or if you have his number? And oftentimes people say no, like, I don't want to get in his business. I thought maybe you could ask him. I don't know the guy. So this is not the time anymore. We are so past trying to maybe let people do it on their own, or hope they're gonna like get it together and get over it kind of thing. We don't just get over these things that we're all talking about. It's impossible to just pick yourself up from your bootstraps and move on and everything's okay. It just doesn't work that way. So if anyone knows of anyone out there that's in pain, reach out. Just call them and say, are you okay? I read that statement. Maybe you were joking, but you want to go take a walk? Do you need anything? Like, I'm here for you. That's the first step. All this stigma that everybody's talking about, it's what keeps people from saying, I'm in pain and I need help. Because of the things that Jeannie described. Nobody wants to be mocked or ridiculed or shamed in any way, but why are we doing that to each other? That's my question. So to me, these are no different than any chronic illness. If you have diabetes, you don't hide it. You don't lie about it. You don't run to the bathroom and check your blood sugar. You just do it. And nobody harms you for it. Everything about emotional difficulty should be exactly the same, because all these things are just chronic illnesses. So that's what we're here to really kind of encourage everybody to do. Don't let people suffer in silence. If you're in pain, throw up a flare. Just tell somebody, I'm like sad and I need some support. And that's what Sims is for. So you've heard that word a lot. We have a table over there, we have cards. Even if you or your family are not in this industry, call us anyway. We're happy to help you. We're happy to get you where you need to go to get the care that you need. We're all in this together, not just during the pandemic, but just in life. So reach out to each other, let each other know that you care. Thank you.
Thank you, Patsy.
Sure.
Oh, right. Talk into it and then wipe it down.
Yeah,
So our next, real good at this. Our next speaker is the co-founder of the Amplified Sound Coalition and the former talent buyer for Barracuda, my good friend Dan Holloway.
Hi. Hello. So, yeah, I've been a talent buyer, promoter, booker for 17 years. I moved here to Austin about 10 years ago to work for Emos when they were still down on Red River, we had our last show there on New Year's Eve 9 years ago, and it's sat empty since then, which is a very Austin situation.
Yeah.
And for for pretty much 25 years, since I was a young man, I was a big. Say what? You know, I like to party. That's how I operated. I was the guy who, you know, if one tequila shot was a good idea, then 14 was, you know, a very, very good idea, but it wasn't. But somehow I made that work for 25 or so years. But as these things do, the snake, you know, the tail kind of came back around, and it became very obvious after a few attempts to like get it together, or take a break, or moderate, or all that stuff. That wasn't going to happen. And so I decided, I had seen some friends who were in my same situation, and I had seen them kind of pull it together, and I could see sort of the clarity in their eyes and how much, you know, how at peace they were with how compared to how it used to be. And so I asked them for advice on how to do that, and they kind of showed me the way. And so flash forward to 2020, I saw these same people struggling. I began to struggle, especially after Barracuda closed. Like at first I was like, oh yeah, this isn't so bad, you know, $600 a week unemployment, just kind of chilling. And then the sort of realities of everything began to set in. And I kind of took myself out of the equation for a few months here during the summer. The grief of all that stuff kind of caught up to me. And at some point I figured, I guess the city was going to do something. Like a lot of people, you know, 6 months in, you're like, yeah, we're here, and we built this, and we made this, and you're not even acknowledging the struggle at all. And at first, you hear a lot of, well, Austin's lame now anyway, who gives a shit, where are you gonna go? But I never really heard a lot of people say, well, we're gonna try to change that. So after a couple months of spiraling down, and reminding myself every day that it was temporary and that it would end, I kind of pulled out of it. But I saw a lot of people struggling. Those same people in the music industry who had showed me the way to a healthier life. And I, at that point, started talking to Jeanette a little bit and some other friends at a restaurant association folks, and we all kind of banded together to fight for protections and to fight for our future. And the momentum is happening now, which has been kind of mind-blowing. And I didn't get into it so I could blast the Better Business Bureau every day on my Facebook. It's been a good time, don't get me wrong. Or Mayor Adler or any of that other stuff. It was
do it so well.
So it was because I was worried, you know. We were all experiencing trauma, and one way or the other, you're gonna have to face it. And my way of facing it was to speak up and say something. And Mike, you know, of course I get these thoughts in my head like, oh, well, Barracuda would still be here if I'd said something 3 months ago, but none of that matters. What matters now is that we all connect and that we're a bigger group than anybody else in this town. And we don't have to sit back and let Austin fall into the hands of tech bros and rich people and all our venues close down and all of that. We can change this, and we can protect our future, and we can all look out for each other. And so the live music community has been there for me again and again and again for 2 decades now, and so it's nice to see y'all again and get some stuff going. Thank you.
Need to work on my shtick with this thing. So coming up to talk next, we have a local music podcaster for the program Loud as Love. It is with pleasure I introduce Lauren Darcy.
Oh man, I'm fucking short. Okay, so can I touch this? Cool. All right. Thank you to the staff, Volstead Hotel Vegas, for letting us use the space. We have been here a long time, you know. It's weird, man. The whole fucking thing is really weird. It's like going to a house with the lights off, and then you turn them on, and you're like, shit. I'll clean this fucking room in forever. Oh man, shit. So anyhow, whatever. The reason that I'm up here is because I moved here in 2015 on a whim. I was born and raised in New York City, and like when you grow up in New York City, you're fucking spoiled, man. You have like bagels and carbs and public trans and like people with real accents, and you're kind of cocky. And so I moved here because I heard that it was the live music capital of the world, and I was like, all right. Cool. And my friends were like, yeah, dude, move to Austin. They have a bunch of hippies and like all these venues outside. And I'm like, sick, let's do it, you know? And I did. And the one thing that was really interesting about living here was that all the venues had their own community. And it's like, why am I up here? Like, why is this important? It's like, I don't have a Tesla. I don't have a boho rackhand chair. Like, why is this important? It's important because of the community. That's why it's important, because every single one of you has had a good time, either tonight or before Corona or before whatever. And every one of you is coping over the loss of that good time. There's a whole community that makes that for you. I'm serious. There is a whole community that builds that for you. And those people are a source of your livelihood. And now my livelihood and their livelihood is gone. And oh my God, I just never thought I would be up here talking about the loss of live music ever. It was just like the one guarantee in my life. You know, I was like, cool, I can just go to a show and forget about it. And like, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. And so my mom suggested to me, and we don't get along at all. You good? You good? Yeah? Great. Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay. So, my point is, I started going to shows and built a community and started meeting these people. And the cool thing about Austin is that like everything, holy shit, dude, like everything about humanity comes out of community. Every good aspect comes out of the people that you meet at shows, the people that you meet at restaurants, the restaurant that you go to where you have memories that are just so incredible, you know, and that's worth saving. And, you know, the government's just like, oh, it's not that important. I wanted to come up here as a fan of music and pitch that it is important. In 2016, South by brought in $326 million to the city of Austin. I can't imagine what that's like now, 4 years later, 3 years later, you know, and the entertainment industry is an $11 billion industry in America, in the United States. And they're like, oh, it's not important. We have essential. This is essential. being able to reach out to your friends and being able to go to a show and see a band that you love, like a band that saves your life is like it's a real fucking thing. You know, it really is. And I can't tell you how many albums that I've put on during this pandemic alone with my thoughts, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here. And we should fight and we should hold the city of Austin accountable to save the creative aspects that people come here for. Yes. I mean, really, the whole reason that we're here tonight is to be together, and the whole reason is to support these industries and the people that work really hard and the people that love what they do. So thank you all to the staff for this. Yes. And thank you to Austin for the music venues and bringing us all together. Let's keep doing it.
All right, we just got a couple more speakers coming up here. I want to say thank you for everyone for being supportive of everything we're saying. Again, I'm still talking into it and I'm disinfecting it. So our next speaker is yet another wonderful, incredible person from Sims, James Wood.
Thank you so much. All right, thanks so much. My name is James Whale, and I am here with the Sims Foundation. And for some inexplicable reason, I asked to speak tonight. I moved to Austin a little over a decade ago. My first learning experience here in Austin was working at a music venue from the time that it opened until the time that it closed, which took me about 2 years. I'm kindly reminded of a time when 101X Homegrown had a show at our venue, and I got a stack of Mr. Gaddy's pizza coupons, and I lived off of that shit for about 4 months, so thank you, Deidre. And yeah, within the span of a couple years, the owners decided that that venue was going to be better served as a shitty hotel. So thanks. That was my first Austin experience, and it was a good one because it kind of told me what to expect. Yeah. I could have used Sims at the time that I was working there. Unfortunately, back then, they didn't serve barbacks at music venues. However, it's really awesome that we have been able to add those services. And so we're able to serve the entire music industry, which I think is really, really cool. Yeah, that is cool. I guess we can clap for that. You know, and working at venues at the time, from the time that I moved here, kind of made me realize that people in this city really, really need mental health assistance, especially myself. And so it's been really awesome to kind of get to work with an organization of just such wonderful people who really care, who really galvanize the community, and try to get people to look out for each other. But we're here tonight to talk about how we've been doing during the pandemic. So if I'm going to answer that, I would say pretty shitty. It sucked, and that's just the reality of it. But that's okay. We can get through things that suck. We can get through things that are terrible and come out better for them. We can come out stronger. We'll see. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe it will. But the first couple months that we have, yes, I like your positive thinking. Thank you, Patsy. That is why she heads up the Sims Foundation. You know, the first couple months after the pandemic started, it was just a really interesting thing to kind of see from my point of view, where musicians had to cancel their tours, music venues had to close their doors, everyone had to close shop, just like that. No one whined, no one bitched, they did what they had to do because that's what you do when you live in a community and you care about the people around you. You care about the well-being of those who live in your community. And I thought that was just amazing that everyone just kind of stopped right at harvest season for our music industry, because that's what South by is our harvest season. And they figured out creative ways, because when you're a musician, when you work in the music industry, you're told to have 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs, because none of your jobs count as real jobs, apparently. So you're told to pivot, to find something new every single time, and so they did, as they always do. They looked out for each other. You saw people finding ways to help out different nonprofits, finding ways to help out homeless communities, finding ways to help out their neighborhoods. And it was a really great thing to see for a while. And then after a while, I just kind of started getting bogged down with all of the news. It was very depressing, especially when you're in my position and you have to handle social media for a mental health organization. You're looking at a lot of depressing shit. And so that started to get to me after a while. It sucked. And thankfully, I work with someone amazing like Patsy. And she basically kind of told our whole staff at Sims, you know, if you're not doing well, let us know. You know, it's okay. Take the time for yourself. Your mental health is paramount. You need to do what you need to do. And so I did that. And knowing that, you know, I'm able to work with someone as awesome as Patsy. By the way, anytime that she comes up here and speaks, she's going to speak about musicians, music industry professionals, the community. She's going to talk about everyone but herself. So I want to brag a little bit about just kind of how awesome she has been for the music community, how much she cares, and it's just really special to have her. But really, all I wanted to say was that at this point, no one's going to build a statue for the musicians who canceled their breakthrough tours, and no one's going to build a monument for the music venues who put people over money, even when it was putting their livelihoods at stake. But it was the right thing to do, and there's something to be said about that when a community comes together and does the right thing for the sake of that. So, you know, what I just kind of want to say is what everyone's going through is really hard. It's really stressful. There's all these things that people will say that you're supposed to do in order to get through this. You're supposed to eat better. You're supposed to drink all this water. You're supposed to go to bed on time. You're supposed to wake up on time. You're supposed to do all of this shit, and just trying to check all of those boxes, it's gonna bog you down. It's gonna make you feel terrible. Don't shame yourself if you can't check all of those boxes. Check whatever boxes you can and fuck the rest. So just please be kind to yourself. Look out for each other. Be kind to each other because this music community matters. Your livelihood matters. So thanks and take care.
Well done, Jane. Made me cry. I was like, yeah, that's my plan. It's like, I know, you're a crier.
So I have one person that I didn't check in with. If Paul Hicks is here and still wants to speak, please feel free to come up. Going once, going twice, it's totally okay.
You're good.
I gotta check who is next then. Oh yay, all right. I made this list, you'd think I'd know. So, welcome to our stage. Dr. Garrick Baskerville, and I'll let you introduce yourself and what you're all about right after I sanitize this.
Yeah, now that she's done talking into the
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Garrick Baskerville. I'm actually a medical physician. I have a practice just a block down the road, right here on 6th Street. It's right next to Liberty Bar. So I'll talk to you a little bit about how I started this practice and why I'm here. So I grew up outside of Philly, so I'm from Philly. And cool, we got a fan here, go Eagles. Yeah, go Birds.
Not this season, not this season.
It is what it is. But I grew up as an artist in elementary school, middle school, high school. And when I was 14, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was planning on becoming a big-time playwright, thespian, actor in LA. And I'm also a graphic artist too. Well, at least I was. So anyway, I was an artist. Actually, I'll take a step back. So when I was about 10 or 11, my father, who I just told you was diagnosed with terminal cancer, he told me, he said, how are you going to be an artist and take care of a family? And I said, Dad, I don't know, I'm just 10, you know. And he told me, as an artist, you're not going to be able to take care of your family. So he said, go to college or trade school, have some kind of career, and then you can do your art on the side. And so when he was diagnosed with cancer, then he eventually passed away when I was 16, I knew that the art, I was going to listen to my father, and I was going to do something that I knew that I had to do, and that was become a physician. Because, you know, watching him go through that he was an artist himself, and he was also an athlete. And so I saw my dad grow from a very muscular, proud man to nothing, and I wanted to be the doctor for other people that I couldn't be for my dad. So that's why I went to med school. So I went through, I still did some art when I was in med school and everything like that, but when I got out, went through residency and all that stuff, and I started working for different hospital systems, and I saw that the hospital systems were trying to put profit over people, and my whole intention of going to med school and making a difference in someone's life, they did not care about that. They just wanted me to basically meet a quota, and that's real in medicine, you know, I'm sure it's a shocker. But I worked for different hospital systems in Philadelphia, and I can tell you one of the systems was called Chester Medical Center. But anyway, they told me that they said, I used to do a lot of mental health treatment, and that's one of my passions is mental health. I have mental health in my family. I have a bunch of people in my family that have severe mental health issues, including my own sister. She's got bipolar disorder. And she allows me to say that when I speak, so I just want to say that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I have a passion for mental health. I worked for this hospital system. They would time how long I was in a visit through their EMR, their electronic health record system. So they figured out that when I did mental health treatments, which was about 60% of what I did, I spent 22 minutes with my patients, okay? They said, well, across our network, all the other doctors, they're like, they spend 16 minutes with their patients. And they're like, you're 6 minutes over. So they told me, they were like, but I want to tell you something. Your patients love you, and the Press Ganey scores for your visits are out insane. So Press Ganey, they grade doctors. So anyway, so I had a good rating, but apparently I wasn't good enough because they told me that I could see more people and bring them in more money. So they wanted me to see more people. And so every 6 minutes that I was spending over, that was costing them money. That's what they told me. So then this hospital said that they were going to fire me because I was spending too much time with the patients. So they said, we're going to put you on a performance improvement plan. Okay, so they told me I was a good doctor, but they said because I was spending time with patients, and I can tell you one of my patients, I'm going to call her Lauren. That's not her name, but I remember her very well. She was suicidal. I took care of her. I got her out of that. She was starting to do art and all her stuff again. And then her father actually was suffering from depression as well, which I didn't realize. He was also my patient whom I had been taking care of for over 2 years. And he started to come to see me. And so then I got a chance to take care of his depression because he saw what I did for his daughter. And so I was like, I'm out of medicine. So I had only been in medicine for, I don't know, about 6 years or so at this time. And I said, if I went into med school to make a difference to people, and now I'm working for hospital systems that don't care about that, they only care about money, I'm like, I'm out. And so I was super depressed, as you can imagine. I'm like, I wasted all this time and money, and I couldn't fulfill on my passion and purpose in this life, which was make a difference for other people. And so I was thinking about quitting medicine. I was thinking about moving to LA and trying to pursue the acting thing again. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out. So I quit that hospital the next week after they told me they were gonna put me on a performance improvement plan. It wasn't bad. I got another job and they were paying me more money, so it was fine. But I was working for an urgent care company. So I did urgent care for a while and I was miserable because that wasn't my passion or purpose. But I just had to figure it out. So in 2017, I did some self-improvement courses, and I realized that I could actually have my whole world. Being an artist, you know, a creative, and also being a doctor. And so this aha moment went on in my head, and I said, well, why don't I open a doctor's office for creatives and for the service industry? So I opened this practice in 2018. I'm sorry, no, I quit my job in 2018. I opened the practice actually in November 2019. So we take care of the creatives in the service industry, musicians, artists, bartenders, bar owners, I take care of dancers, the whole deal. It's just a block away for $69 a month. And so what my patients get is they get me, and they get all my love and time. They get an hour visit, so there's no more rushed like 12-minute visits or 16-minute visits. It's an hour, you know. And what we do is we get to the root cause of what's going on with you, and I actually listen to my patients. And it's just like a gym. So they come in, if they need to be seen weekly, that's what it is. But they still pay $69 a month. So I'm now able to make a difference. I'm now the happiest I've been in my life. I actually make the least amount of money that I've ever made in my life. But it's okay. It's okay. Because my mental health has been improved. So when I was working at these jobs and they were paying me a whole lot of money, I was miserable. I was miserable. And thank God, one thing that I found to help my misery was running. So I started running a lot. You know, and that was my therapy, and I recommend that for people. You know, running isn't for everyone, but if you do want to do that, it does help stress a lot. It does help a lot. So anyway, that's my story. If you want a doctor, if you need a doctor, if you think insurance is just crazy, talk to me. Check out Metsi Care. So Metsi stands for Music, Entertainment, Technology, and Service Industry Care. So we're a block away. Follow us on Instagram if you don't mind. But anyway, that's me. Thank you. I also want to thank the Sims Foundation. I want to thank Hotel Vegas. I want to thank what you call it? Jeanette and everyone else.
The Amplified Sound Coalition.
Amplified Sound. I'm calling her first name, but Amplified Sound and Jeanette. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yay, you did it right that time. Woohoo!
It's for me.
Well done.
All right, we have one more story, but you'll notice it's just me up here. One of the things that's been really important to the Amplified Sound Coalition, next time I'll come up with something shorter, TASK, has been coming up with ways for people to participate in our movement from the comfort of home, which I understand home is also really uncomfortable. But it is really important to find ways to let people practice activism without putting themselves at risk or without feeling unsafe. Because right now, one of our main objectives at TASK is for everyone to feel safe. To briefly run over the three things that we concentrate on at TASK, it's survivability of our industry, sustainability of that industry, and the safety of the people working in it. So that's everyone on stage, side stage, backstage, behind a bar, etc. So we only had one person submit their story to be read by a proxy, and she requested it be me, which is nice. And that person is actually a remote activism manager for the Amplified Sound Coalition. So this was written by Deb Dangerfield. You may know her from Lost Well, back before all the shit went down. And she starts off thanking me, so this is gonna be awkward, but just imagine that I'm actually Deb and speaking in her voice. Thank you, Jeanette, for being my voice tonight. Most of you know me as Deb Dangerfield, which is the absolute best nickname I've ever had. For the last 6+ years, I've worked at the Lost Well, along with working, producing, and managing events, as well as producing television and film. I've been working in the service industry for over 3 decades since I started as a hostess at Denny's at 15. It's in my blood. It is my blood. After my first bar job cocktail waitressing at Fat Tuesdays, on South Street in Philly, I knew I'd found my niche. I would leave to work real jobs, but I always came back. The longest break I've had from the industry was 4 years in my mid-20s while in grad school. I always go back. I always work at least 1 shift a week, always. I've also been fighting that bug. I've also been fighting an autoimmune disease that has increased 1,000-fold in severity the last few years. Although I probably should go back to a real job for my health's sake, regardless of the current pandemic situation, the thought of never being behind a bar again never producing an event again, never being a sarcastic asshole to make money again, it makes me super sad. And I'm already clinically depressed with chronic health conditions, so I would prefer to not be any more sad. Due to my compromised immune system and the pandemic, I feel super trapped and alone. For the month bars reopened in Austin, I sat it out and got angrier and angrier and angrier. I'm angry at the government at every level. I'm angry at the science deniers. I'm angry at COVID-19. I'm angry at my body. I feel like I'm screaming into the void more often than not, and you won't like me when I'm angry, believe that. And now, bars are rebranding as restaurants, serving a bag of stale chips and a ramekin of salsa so they can reopen and not shutter for good. But it's really, really not safe for even the healthiest of people and has zero to do with anyone's rights. Meanwhile, venues still sit silent and dark, full of empty promises from the powers that be for assistance that just doesn't come.
Yep.
We deserve better. We deserve assistance. The venues at which we work deserve assistance, as do organizations like SIMS and HAM. I'm so grateful for the SIMS Foundation. I first reached out to them last summer after 2 different failed attempts at therapy over the course of my life and swearing I'd never go back. Having access to affordable mental health care offered by people who genuinely care and give their time for people in the industry has made an enormous positive impact on my well-being. We all deserve to be heard. We all deserve to be seen. I hear you. I see you. I've got you. Deb Dangerfield. So that's it. If we were that much of a bummer, the Sims stand is right over there. But I hope that everyone took from this what we were really going for, which is that sense of community, which we all are. You know, it takes a lot of chutzpah to come up here and kind of, you know, expose that vulnerability, to talk about how sad you are, or you've been, or the things that you've overcome. And I'm really proud of the people that can do that. And it didn't occur to me to put it in my speech earlier, but I guess that's sort of what we all promote and make happen with every concert that we've ever put on and every festival. It's just like a little bit more poetic than me up here dropping the F-bomb a lot. And probably a lot more talented because I can't play an instrument to save my life. But anyway, if you want to get involved, contact Sims, donate to Sims if you can. I know I'm preaching the choir here of unemployment folks, but you know, contact that rich uncle. Contact us at the Amplified Sound Coalition. We have a website now and social media presence. And just reach out. Maybe we can make some cool shit happen or do this again or all of the above. So thank you to Hotel Vegas that I used to call home. Y'all have a great night.